Well, following that report is Anne Speckhard, who's the director of the International Centre for the Study of Violent Extremism. She's in Berlin, usually based in the United States. Anne, thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, the issue is laid out very clearly by Ola Girin there with regard to A, encouragement to IS, B, potentially betrayal of Kurdish support. But this is not a huge number of American troops. So how valid are those two concerns, do you think?
They're hugely valid, David. It is a betrayal of the Syrian Kurds. And we have to remember that they're not just the U.S. ally, the world's ally. They're UK's ally, France, Belgium, all the countries that have had attacks from IS. The Kurds destroyed the caliphate. They were the on-the-ground fighting force. They are the people that are now blind, in wheelchairs, on crutches, dead, because they fought the Kurds for us on the ground. We offered them air support, and that's the crucial thing. We have 7 bases in Syria, in the northern area. We've withdrawn from 2, as the reports that I have, in the far north, and we offer air support. So the Turks didn't dare come in unless they had permission. What Ambassador Jeffries was negotiating successfully was for the Kurds to withdraw a certain amount from the Turkish border, for the Turks to come into Syria, which is highly unusual, and to patrol with U.S. troops. Why that agreement fell apart, that had been successfully negotiated, I don't know. Okay. It sounds to me like President Trump just gave it away.
Well, whether he gave it, sorry to interrupt you, whether he gave it away or not, he is saying, listen to me, President Erdogan, you go in there and cause trouble for the Kurds, and I will, literally, his word, obliterate your economy. They're bound to be listening to that, aren't they?
Of course they're listening to it, but remember that we have a president that one morning tweets one thing and the same evening tweets something else. So it's a complete about-face. You have permission to go in. Up to this point, we did not give the Turks permission to go in, and suddenly they have permission. What are the Kurds to think? And they're the ally of the global coalition, not just the U.S. They're your ally too. And what are the Kurds to think of? We're no longer allies. You're not with us. What happened to all our negotiated agreements? And then suddenly at night, when President Trump is told he's wrong by everyone in the military establishment, by Lindsey Graham, by his own party, then he suddenly comes out with this bully threat to Erdogan.
Right. I mean, nonetheless, as you said, an agreement that might have found wiggle room for the Kurds and indeed the Turkish government to have a position they could hold on to seems to have fallen apart. What do you think President Erdogan will do? Because obviously that sense of Kurdish fighters as terrorists remains a very strong political plank in his armoury.
I think as long as he trusts that he can do it with impunity, he will go in and he will cause bloodshed. The Turkish view is that the Syrian Kurds are terrorists. Our view should be that they fought terrorists, which is the truth. They lost 1,000 lives doing so. And if they're going to fight the PKK, they should continue to do so in Iraq, in the Kandil Mountains, with their drones and their fighter jets.
One last question for you, Anne, and that regards IS itself. Is this a great morale booster for what seems to be a largely wasted, exhausted force?
We have to remember that IS was territorially defeated. They lost their caliphate, but they have sleeper cells all over Iraq and Syria. There's attacks once a week. Baghdadi has twice now come out in broadcasts telling his cadres to break through the prisons and camps, and there have been attempts at outbreaks in the prisons and camps. So we're destabilizing a situation where the Kurds have been keeping these prisoners who your country, by the way, doesn't want back. And if you don't want them back, who's going to hold them? And do you trust the Turks to hold them? How are they going to get to that, all those different camps and prisons while fighting the Kurds and take over the prisons? That's not going to be a peaceful process.
No, we'll have to leave with that series of questions. Anne Speckhard, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.